Hi everyone and welcome to this hangout. The Goddess Activation Codes. We're celebrating Summer Solstice 2015. I'm Sara Isabelle Marie from Worlds of Comfort, and I'm here today with Shannon Port of Art of the Feminine. Shannon is the creator and founder of Art of the Feminine Facebook page, website, and podcast. Shannon specializes in the healing and transformation of human sexuality and opening the portal of the divine feminine wisdom of Sophia's heart on earth. Through her work, she has become known as a powerful voice of healing on our planet. The podcast and the Art of the Feminine weekly calls with Shannon Port can be found on iTunes and on YouTube. They're being uploaded on YouTube on her channel, Shannon Port. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Sara. How are you? I'm just taking a, all right. I'm just kind of figuring out what's happening here. I just see Kayla's on the screen now. So I'm just going to take a moment and see if I can, all right. Okay. Oh, it's good to be here. We've had some technical difficulties today, and that's what I started a new Hangout, but it looks like something is changing on this Hangout now too. So I'm just going to see if I can figure out what's going on here. All right. Yeah. Sara, are you seeing me on the screen at all?
Yeah, you're big.
Oh, really? Okay, so I'm the one that's getting the interference. So I'm seeing Kayla on the screen, but
yeah, me too.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I think it's the microphone.
Huh? Because I have her on mute, but we'll just okay.
Yeah, she's muted now.
Okay. All right. So okay. So am I coming on the screen now?
Yeah, you're
okay.
on.
All right. So, so we'll just go ahead with the Hangout and see what we get. And maybe we'll have to record it. But it's good to be here. So it's Friday, June 19th, and we're 2 days before summer solstice. But we wanted to meet early, and Friday's such a powerful day. And the 19th is a powerful day because it represents the sun, and so it's summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, and so we're here to celebrate. We're actually celebrating the sun today in the light of the goddess, and so welcome to Sara, who is broadcasting with us live today she was in Sweden last time we spoke to her, but today she's in Spain. Coming from the Canary Islands. Let me make sure I know which island that is. Fuerteventura, off the coast of Morocco, Africa. So how lucky is she to be there? But Sarah's coming to us from Spain, and she is the founder and creator of Worlds of Comfort, and she's on an intuitive travel contract and mission right now, and so we're really lucky to be connecting with her, and I hope we get a good video from this Google Hangout. But so it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's really good to be here. I'm really excited. Some powerful energies today. So we'll start off the Hangout with the first question. What does the summer solstice represent?
All right, so that's a really good question, and we're getting ready to experience summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, and so at the same time that we experience summer solstice in the north, the southern hemisphere will be experiencing winter solstice. We go by, when we're following the path of the sun for the purposes of the spiritual unfoldment and awakening, we go by where the sun is in the north, and so when we're in entering into summer solstice in the north, we're at the high point of the ascension portal, and what it does is that it opens up a portal or a gate for the earth to receive the most light of any other time of the year, and to really, really bring in what we call a goddess activation, because we're receiving light not just from the sun, but from the sun behind the sun, and from the heart of the Great Mother, and the heart of the center of our universe and of our existence, is giving us light to communicate with us and to help us to remember who we are, why we're here, and how we can heal those things that we need to heal. And so let me see if I want to say anything else about that. Cosmic, yes, it represents the archetype, the world in the sacred tarot, and the world is number key 21. It's the last of the 22 divine archetypes, and it represents cosmic consciousness and the goddess. It shows the archetype is the goddess inside the oval, which is the womb of creation, but actualized and in touch with the whole cosmos. And so this is the time of year that really represents that the pinnacle of that experience and of that kind of communication with spirit and with the goddess. And so I think, I know what I wanted to say. So, so the winter solstice represents the desire for birth and the desire for the spirit to come into matter and to be born within matter. And so the winter solstice represents the divine light coming into the darkness. And so we start with winter solstice. The season of initiation starts with the winter solstice and with the desire for birth, and then then it does the work within the dark of transmuting. And then for the spring equinox, which we met on spring equinox, it becomes the time of the rebirth and the time of being born again and being born again into the light. And then the period between the spring equinox and summer solstice represents the period between that rebirth and the ascension of the sun and the mother, which also represents the Christos Sophia, into the higher supernal light. And so it represents, it leads up to summer solstice, which is which represents our ascension and the regeneration of that supernal light within the physical body of the human being.
Tell us about your recent newsletter you wrote, Awakening the Spiritual Body of Love, and how that relates to the summer solstice.
All right. So yes, the June newsletter that I wrote for the Art of the Feminine Akashic Insight newsletter. The title of the article was Awakening the Spiritual Body of Love. And that was and I was even surprised by that and by the beauty of that, because it was a communication that happens within the Akashic realm and looking into the Akashic records for humanity and where we're at this time. And so the spiritual body is the higher body of not only the earth, but of all human beings. So we all exist not only in the physical, but we have a counterpart to our spiritual body, which exists in the higher astral. And it represents really the light of the sun. And so that in that article, what was being said is that now is the time for human beings to realize and to have awareness of their spiritual body and their spiritual counterpart, and to take the necessary steps to activate the goddess activation codes within their own life and within their own consciousness, so that we can all empower our spiritual body. So our spiritual body gives us the ability to move in the spiritual world and the ability to move on the inner plane. And so when we think of our 3D body and our physical body, we think about the body that we have in this world, the physical being that our soul has wrapped around it, the envelope of our five senses. But our spiritual body is the body that gives us the ability to move on the inner plane and to then really receive conscious guidance from the inner plane, which is also represents the higher world. What is really being asked at this time of human beings is for us to take responsibility for how we've used and how we continue to use the power of the five senses that we have in this physical earth life, and how we've used those sensual connections throughout all of our lifetimes and throughout all of our physical human lives, because they've built up the pattern that has kept us in the lower consciousness. When we use only the five senses that correspond to physical life, which are and the desire force in the physical world, what happens is that our spiritual body becomes not as active. Our spiritual, when all of our life force is going into the physical world and we're experiencing what tastes good and what feels good, and we're consuming things from the outer world, we're giving more life to this body in this reality than we are on the physical, on the inner plane. But when we're able to raise our consciousness and realize that there are appetites that reach us, that illuminate us, and that elevate the spirit that's within our heart to join then with our spiritual body. And when we connect with those, when we connect our goddess force and our desire force with those longings and with those desires, we begin to build our spiritual body, and we begin to empower it. Once the spiritual body is awake on the inner plane and it begins to have limbs, it has arms and legs and a heart, and it can speak, it can hear, it can feel, it can sense, it can smell, the power of our physical body changes, and we begin to receive the impulses from our spiritual body and begin to prepare to bring our human body into marriage with our Christic being and our Christic body, the light of our solar consciousness. So our spiritual body is connected to solar consciousness and the solar feminine, and that energy that is, when it merges with the human body, it gives it new life. It makes it so that it never dies. It makes it infinite and eternal, and it resurrects it. It becomes the risen vehicle. And now I know I'm going on, Sara. I'm sorry, it took us a while to get going. So I just wanted to say, in terms of the archetypes, that when so this happens during the sign of Cancer. The June solstice happens during the sign of Cancer. Leading up to it this week, we had the new moon in Gemini, and that Gemini represents the merging of the subconsciousness of humanity with the superconsciousness of the of the monad and of the light, supernal light. And so we activated Gemini and the Lovers archetype with the new moon that just happened this week, and now we're moving to, on Sunday for the summer solstice, we'll be entering into the sign of Cancer, which is the archetype, the Chariot, in the sacred tarot. And the archetype of the Chariot represents the light body. It represents the Merkaba, and it represents the power of the Logos awakened within the divine vehicle. And it's ruled, Cancer is ruled by the moon, and it's the sign of the Divine Mother. And so it's happening in the sign that represents the union of the divine mother and the divine light with the human light on earth and with the human soul on earth. So there's all these archetypal meanings behind why now and why with the sun. And so I'll stop there and try to tie some more of it in.
Yeah, I know you work a lot with archetypes and the sacred tarot, and I did read in your newsletter that you're launching a program in July, The Secret Wisdom of the 22 Archetypes of Divine Consciousness. Do you want to share about that program and what it's going to be about?
I would love to. And I was just playing a little bit with the screen because I noticed that we weren't going back and forth. So we're just gonna, and I see we are now. So we're just gonna play as we go. I would love to mention that program. Thank you for mentioning it. And yes, it's called The Secret Wisdom of the 22 Archetypes of Divine Consciousness. And it's the next program we're doing at Art of the Feminine, and it's for those of you who have followed the podcast, there's 22 hours of podcasts that are available, as Sara mentioned, on iTunes and on YouTube, and they talk all about the archetypes, and we use the archetypes in our work, so it's really, really powerful connection. If you're looking to learn about the individual archetypes in the major arcana, there's an hour call on each one, but in this program we're going to do, it's a 7-week telecourse to unlock the mystery of the major arcana of tarot and the wisdom of the Hebrew alphabet. So we're also going to really focus on the wisdom of the Hebrew letters and the Hebrew alphabet, and really bring it together. And so we're going to go into the secret symbols and the codes of the tarot. We'll be working with the law of 777 and as I said, the Hebrew letters of the mystical Kabbalah. We'll be working with the tree of life and with the divine feminine and divine masculine archetypes, and most importantly with the law of correspondences that ties it all together. So in the law of correspondence, we can do what we were just doing. We can look at the archetype of the chariot and realize how it corresponds to the sign Cancer, and why it's connected with the moon, why it's connected with the light body and with the power of the logos, and we can just bring it all together. And so I'm looking forward to that's going to start July 24th, 2015, and I'm sure I'll run it again, but it goes for 7 weeks. And so thank you for bringing that up, and it'll be powerful. It'll be bringing in a lot of what we're talking about today.
Yeah, it feels really powerful. I want to go to, because right now there's a lot of light coming into the planet, and it's like we're experiencing, the split of the two worlds. We have the ascending spiral and the descending spiral, and really those of us that are spiritually, we're awake, we're aware, we're the ones that said yes, I'll go down there, I'll help out. I feel like those of us are really getting a big push from behind. And my question is, so when we're going through our own healing process, and because the forces, like the forces that are coming from our emotional body or mental body, and all of the subconscious memories from many lifetimes of fear, trauma, abuse, pain, all of those things, how do we hold light? How do we hold our light, and how do we hold our centered focus when we're going through sort of the waves of healing, and when we are out in the world and we're like, because those of us that are sensitive in the path, we can feel that there's a split happening, and how do we hold our light in the presence of that?
Yeah, and it's something that pretty much all of us think about every day, because we're faced with it, and sometimes the challenges of being in the world and of operating in in kind of in two paradigms at once, and having to interface with what feels so much against the direction that we want to go. When we look at what's really happening, sometimes that we think, how could this really be the mirror of the work that I'm doing to heal and to continue to make the connections that we're talking about. And so first of all, and I know you know this, it takes compassion, and one of the great qualities and codes in the goddess activation codes is compassion for ourselves and compassion for every last being on this planet and what all of us are going through, because we're all here together. And even those who may look like they are causing the problems, many people are experiencing a lot of grief and a lot of agony. Many people who aren't awake and who haven't begun the spiritual process are in a lot of pain. And so it helps to bring in the qualities of the Divine Mother and to have compassion for the earth and for all of us, and to understand that we're here to do this for a reason. When we see everything that we see on the outside of us is a reflection of the battle between the light and the dark that takes place within each individual human soul. And so within all of us, this is metaphysics, and it's within all of us, because we're in this reality, there's an ongoing struggle between the light and the dark within our own being. Each one of us. As long as we're here, that struggle, we're still participating in. We may have come back to help and to take part in it of our own free will to help others, but if we're seeing it in the world around us, it's still taking place within us. And so understanding that helps us to know that there's a reason to hold the light for ourselves as well as for other people, and it's not easy. I mean, there's days you just want to cry and curl up and hug your teddy bear. It's like, and take care of yourself, because it's hard work, and there is definitely pain and suffering involved with it. There absolutely is. And anyone says there's not supposed to be any suffering, it is not speaking from the spiritual sense. There is a sense of having to be work done in order to rise, for those good qualities within us to rise up. If you think about anything in your life you've gone through, after you've gone through it, you gain the wisdom of it, and you can hold that wisdom and look at it and love it and share it with other people. So there's a reason for the pain. So to have compassion and forgiveness is huge. But the other thing is to just keep on keeping on and keep on doing our own work. And our own work really involves, what we're doing is we're creating a prism. So we are creating a prism of light to bring in the Trinity light. So we're making this metaphysical triangle, this prism, in order to refract the light of the supernal light of the Divine Mother that's coming in. So if you imagine there's this powerful light coming from behind our sun, and it's coming in, but it needs containers for it to go through, to break up into the 7 rays of color. So what we're doing by doing our spiritual work is we're creating that container within our own body. We're anchoring our spiritual body in to become the prism, so that we can use the light, we can actually anchor the light in. So we become the chalice. And it reminds me of something that was in that newsletter, Awakening the Body of Love. It was the chalice of the 7 portals of light. So the chalice is the chariot, and it is the archetype of the chariot, and it is the vehicle of the Divine Mother. We create the chalice or the prism in order to bring that light in. And so what we can do, to go back to your question, how we can handle the split, is to keep doing the work that helps everybody. And that work involves involves becoming very aware of our sensual appetites and those cravings that we have, because our desire force is being usurped by the lower the lower agenda, meaning we're being marketed to constantly. We live in a world where everything's being marketed to us. We're being sold everything from clothing to food to houses to spiritual paradigms. And so our desire force goes out and it chooses what feels good to the lower senses. The more we awaken our divine senses and the more that we're in our heart, we begin to choose those things that nourish and nurture the higher senses, and we start to build the spiritual body, which becomes capable of refracting that great, great light. And so as that happens, and to go back to the question again, we begin to understand that every word that we speak is sacred and holy, every single word. Every interaction with another human being holds the potential for us to spread so much love and that white light of the supernal light. It comes through the heart like a laser and just spreads out. And so every moment, if we can walk our highest potential, we are given so much help. And so it doesn't mean there's times when we need to cry and there's times when we need to get angry and experience deeply human emotions to bring them into a divine way. And that we need to learn how to take care of ourselves during those times and absolutely find the space that it's right to really get angry or to let out the emotion or to cry or to weep. And then the last thing I'll say about that, because if we turn that anger inward on ourselves, or if we turn it on another human being, or if we turn against life, the power of life, and if we condemn the power of life, we debilitate, we crash our spiritual body. Our spiritual body becomes numb and folds in. It loses its life, and then life gets really hard in this world. And so we're working that balance between the inner plane and the outer plane, the higher and the lower. It's that coming together of the four to meet in the center of the cross. We just as much consciousness as we can hold, and we'll be giving a gift not only to ourselves but to everyone, because it's not going to be easy. There's more hardship and pain that we'll witness even in our spiritual advancement, but it's the way it's going to be until we go through the full purification.
Yeah, that really ties into another question I wanted to ask. That has to do with responsibility and accountability. And not to say that, I mean, none of us are really perfect. We all have our, we're all human and we have our moments. But I know, and I'm sure many have noticed, I have noticed, especially on social media, and this goes really for everyone, but kind of the target of my question is what I'm noticing more in, let's say, spiritual communities, etc., where the motto is we're all one, but at the same time I'm witnessing a lot of people that are sort of lashing out or projecting their fear or their anger, like their subconscious stuff on other people. And how, because I feel like that's really robbing ourselves from the opportunity and gift of healing. And how do we take responsibility and accountability for our words? Like you say, every word is sacred, and for where we direct our energies at.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really big, and it takes some wisdom and some maturity in order to get there, and in order to realize that that's not something we want to do. We don't want to lash out. We don't want to ever target people with our energy just because it feels good. That's self-righteous. Just because we think we know better and we want to show someone the error of their ways through our own knowledge, it turns against us, because everything that we put out, if it's the intention that it comes from, if it's not aligned with who we're really meant to be, it comes back. It turns back on ourselves. And then the teaching is that the higher we go, the more consciousness we hold, the faster we experience that. So if we misspeak, if we speak from the ego and we just want to be right, or even if we just want to be heard, but we give it in a way that is about taking someone else out or saying, I'll show you, you don't know what you're talking about, I'm going to show you. What happens is we receive the negative output of that immediately. In fact, the more consciousness we hold, it'll come in our sleep, it'll come in an interaction we have later that day. It might feel good in that moment. It doesn't work. And the more we surrender and we get to see that, it makes us wise. We start to understand that with this power, this logos power that we speak, is so valuable that we want to use it in a way that's constantly bringing in and uplifting and constantly awakening those people around us. And if somebody speaks, sometimes when someone speaks something to us and they don't know what they're talking about, sometimes the best thing we can do is to just be silent and let the silence speak. Silence is one of the gifts of the Divine Mother. It's the great gift of Bina on the Tree of Life. And sometimes the power of silence gives so much more healing and teaches so much more profoundly than saying, you're wrong, I'll show you. I'll show you what's right. And so learning when to speak and when to contain. There's a time to speak and say, I need to let you know this is how it is. And there's a time to let it go and to expand into the great silence and let the Divine Mother do it. Let her Holy Spirit come in and take over. Because if you're faced with something dark and you're able to meet it in the highest way you can, you anchor in the Holy Spirit in so much more of a profound way than if you take it on and go at it. When we battle it, we might win the battle, but we don't necessarily win the war. And let me see if there's one more thing. So yeah, we see a lot of this. Also, self-righteousness, it gets us nowhere. So anytime we're operating from a place of we know and they don't, it's very subtle. It's definitely very subtle, but we have to then, our souls that are on this path, we want to learn. And so we've asked to be shown. And so every time we use that energy in a way that's not so great, we get to learn. And the more humble we are, the faster we learn. There's a lot of people talking about how this is the time to speak out and show your rage and take down the dark. Well, there's a way to do it, and it's definitely going to happen. But if you want to be one of those that is really working with the high light, do the work of clearing your own self. Watch your appetites. Watch how you speak. Watch how much love you interact with other people, and you will just grow your spiritual body in such a deep way that you won't even want to do those things. And sometimes we misstep, like you said, we're human. Sometimes we do, and then the best thing to do is not beat ourselves up at all, but to just say, okay, I see what happened. The faster you can see it, the faster it turns around and becomes light for other people. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. So with all the energies that are coming onto the planet, it's the light, the goddess activation codes. It's building momentum. How do we prepare ourselves to hold and embody the goddess activation codes for ourselves and for the planet and for entire humanity? How can we do that?
Yeah, and I know you know a lot about this too. We're allowing our soul and our humanness and our human vehicle to be married to our higher body. And so in order to do that, we have to be able to merge those frequencies. And so it's like what we talked about. It's those 7 portals within us. They give us a lot of information. The 7 portals, in this case, we're talking about the 7 chakras, and how they, how understanding how we can take our human appetites, which are known as the envelope of the five senses, and marry them to our divine connection, so that we become really aware of what is keeping us here in the lower consciousness. We start to become really aware of the way we use our sexuality. And this isn't about condemning anything, and it's definitely not about judgment or even fanatical religious beliefs. It's not about that. It's understanding our energy and understanding what our appetites are, what our human psychology and our human body reaches for in order to feel safe in this world. How we eat and the manner in which we eat, how we speak is huge. How we talk to other people, and where our heart is when we're interacting with other people. How we are taken in by materialism. Materialism is what keeps us here. When we have the desire to constantly consume or to constantly compare, when we only identify with our physical body as the representation of who we are, we automatically drop way down into the lower consciousness, because our bodies are beautiful and we're meant to dress them nice, and we're meant to exercise and feel good, and we're meant to eat really good food, and we're meant to experience a sensual, loving, sexual connection with someone who respects us and honors us. We're meant to use those, but we're meant to take the three lower portals, which really are connected to the human envelope of the five senses, the human tastes and desires, and we're meant to bring them into the heart, so that we can understand our spiritual body and how our spiritual body connects to the highest monadic consciousness of the Divine Mother and her womb of light. What happens is that we're restoring the triangle. We're restoring the supernal relationship between the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And when we restore that relationship, the light comes in. It comes in through that portal. And then we awaken our light body and our chariot, and our word is what really awakens. And so we're balancing the higher and the lower world. We're understanding when I eat, when I shop, when I'm sexually attracted or engaged, how is that linked to my heart and love? There's lower emotions, but the heart holds the emotions of the heart, and the emotions in the heart are what join the lower emotions, and the higher emotions are the emotions that are devotional, and devotional of the divine self, and devotional of what we can't see. It's the understanding of what's there, but our human senses don't sense it. So we have the desire to go inward and to connect with those higher, they're called the higher ideals, and they're the ideals that awaken us and that bring in the light that helps uplift us. So what happens is, when we begin to merge the triangles, we begin to create that space. It's the lower triangle merging with the higher triangle. And then what activates is right there in the heart, the diamond in the heart becomes the light that is active. And so we get to do both. We get to live in this world and use the senses of this world, but we get to be in constant communication with our divine self and our spirit. And I might have gone off track on that question, but I think that's what was meant to come in right now. Oh, yes. And so I'll say something else, and we'll probably talk about this more on another call. There is an ascended body of love that is humanity. We are part of one body, and that body is our body of love. It is our great body that all of us will live and move in as one being. And so there are beings that are already created and holding the space. They've entered into the body of love, that solar vehicle. Because of their consciousness, they did the work to clear and to ascend. And so those beings are known as the master beings, and even the brotherhood and the sisterhood of love and of light that are holding the space. So we will get help. Part of doing that work is that we begin to join with that we begin to become initiates, and we begin to be instructed on the inner plane by some of this, by some of these master beings that are calling to all of us. And again, you have to take what resonates, and for you, because these beings are really just another part of our own self, but they are in a form that will speak to us as we gain the ability to move with our spiritual body on the inner plane. We'll get access to higher levels of help and teachers that are there waiting for us. Mina.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So with everything you've said, with materialism and our sensual desires, how do we balance the materialism and the outer world with our divine self, and just allowing our divine self to really guide us through this reality, and not having materialism ruling our consciousness?
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of, it takes being present. And once we get it, I think one of the best ways is to write about it and really think about what it means. Once we, all of our relationships and everything that we're experiencing now was planned before we came into this physical body. And so all of our relationships with partners, with our family, with our friends, with spiritual communities, and with the communities that we live in, were planned ahead of time. And so everyone is where they're meant to be. And there are moments that are of profound importance, because great initiations are taking place by us interacting with certain other human beings that we know from another time and place. We're working things out. We're working things out that will give both of us wisdom. And so when we start to realize that our relationships are really sacred, they're so sacred, and if we can learn to tell the truth, and communication is so huge. In my work, I have something called Light Body Word, and it's all about the power of communicating with the solar power, and really awakening the true power of the word. When we learn how to do that with those that we love, our heart begins to open so much deeper. Most of the time we don't realize we're communicating from our ego and from patterns that we carry. But when we start to really value every friendship, every communication, when we do our best to be really honest, really transparent, and that doesn't mean we have to reveal everything about ourselves, but it means to be in the light of our higher self, to really to not take anything for granted. Everyone that you're interacting with, you're here to bring some consciousness to that relationship. So if it's a hard relationship, if it's a negative relationship, if you do the work, if you do all the work that you're meant to do, you'll be released from it. Because once that work is finished, if you're not meant to be interfacing, you will be released from the relationship, and the work will be done. And that's a powerful thing to know. So if every relationship we know, because a lot of our challenges come through relationships or with money, with and that reminds me of some of the other things you said, with buying things. If we can bring that into the highest place, everything we go to buy, we ask ourselves, am I buying this because I think it will make me more valuable? Or am I buying it because it's part of my path and it will just enhance my my circumstances so that I can be of greater service? So sometimes we need to create comfort and we need to create beauty around us just so that we can live in that frequency and we can give, it helps us to serve. And so we're meant to be able to interface with the material world. But when things start to become addictive, and when we're buying them from low self-worth, and we think we need to have a lot of clothes and a lot of shoes and a lot of beauty, there's a time when we can say, oh, maybe I won't buy that. Instead of buying something, I'll look inward and reflect on my inner beauty and let that be the light that I shine today. I mean, I know I've done a lot of work with this, like just letting go of some of the material things and just being as you are, and letting your words and letting your eyes, the way you connect with people, and letting the intention in your heart be your beautiful clothes and be your makeup and be your, you know, be your goddess energy, because that's the real goddess energy. And as we work with it, we transform ourselves. We start to look different. We start to act different, and we attract those people we want to attract. But that leads me to another part of that, is that sometimes we'll also, as we're awakening our light, we'll also attract the opposition. And so that means that there will be energies that come in to try to tear it down, and that's all part of the initiation. And it makes us stronger to be able to deal with that and to learn how to hold our consciousness in the face of that. It's so hard. It's like what you talked about, Sara. It's like it's so hard in the face of that, because our hearts are so open, and it can make us feel really bad. But as we get stronger and stronger, as the opposition comes, we just our mirror, our divine mirror, begins to deflect it and send it back. And instead of sending back hatred onto the person, in metaphysics, it's called, we become the transparent jewel. We become the transparent jewel in the diamond heart, that when someone comes at us with negativity, we transmute it and we send back love. And that's that's the ultimate service to this world. When negativity comes in, turn it over and send it out as love. And it doesn't mean denial. It doesn't mean this is all very like everybody feel good, everything's great, don't worry about what's happening. It's not that at all. It's about take the opportunity to see exactly what's there, but know that the power of love is so much stronger than any dark force. When you bring it in and let the power of your heart laser out love, you'll start to see what happens. It's like that's what we're here to do. And when we will be used by this light that's flooding the planet right now, this goddess activation light. It's looking for us, all of it. It's looking for us. It will find you. If you're holding that space, it will be like I love it. It'll be, and it also makes music. You can hear the music and you can see the colors, and that reminds me of you too. I want to have you talk a little bit about where you're living and what it's like where you're at, because Sara has a profound experience of being on a beautiful goddess island in Spain, and so I don't know, maybe you want to say a little bit about what you're seeing or feeling there, because the light is here. It's definitely here, and yeah.
Yeah, my gosh. Well, I've been here on Fuerteventura for, I think it's 3 weeks now, and I do have an intuitive traveling contract with the Earth to exchanging frequencies, energies, etc. And when I landed here, I began communicating with an energetic portal in the ocean here, which holds a lot of like we're talking about now, a lot of the goddess energies that are awakening, and those energies are part of, I would say, it's not a portal that's just beneath the surface of the ocean. It's really connected to the, I would say, the heart and the brain of the planet, the crystalline world of the planet, and it's almost like the portal in the ocean is opening. This is the best way I can describe it, because this is all happening through my intuition, is that the portal in the ocean is opening and it's kind of anchoring with the Great Mother. That's the way, and it's the anchoring and that awakening that's happening, and it's really beautiful to witness that communication, and the dolphins here are really wonderful. So I'm excited to see what's going to unfold here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that you're so lucky, and anyone that gets to really be in nature right now, that's huge. If you can be out communicating with Gaia. Gaia is, I mean, she's holding the space for all of us. We're all part of her, and we're all part of the world's soul. And so those souls who are called to be part of that and to witness, you're witnessing, and I know because of your amazing intuition, is creating part of the consciousness that blends nature and the human consciousness together. We lost that link of humanity. We lost our connection with our mother on the planet, which was very, very unfortunate. And so most human beings are living with complete lack of connection to nature and the world we live in. And so those that are rejoining and creating that bridge and working with the light behind the form, and working with the supernal light that's coming in, it's so beautiful. Oh, it's so, I get to be, I'm not on an island. God, I'm going to come see you. But I have a lot of really beautiful nature surrounding me as well too, and I try to hike and get out and look at the rivers and the trees. There's a lot of beautiful foliage, and you can see it and feel it, what's happening. The animals know, the trees know, the elements know. The elements represent our the elements in nature represent our desire force, and they represent our tastes and our appetites. And so the elementals in nature are being purified as well, because they're so tied to us. We're helping purify the elements within our own being, fire, air, water, and earth, by our consciousness. So we're working with nature, and nature looks to us to help make that, because nature is serving us as well. She's really looking for those who can help, who can join with her and do the work. And it's really big. It's really big to be doing that. And the ocean is really big. It's part of the original. Yeah, the music of, yes, the dolphins and the whales.
Yeah.
So
I do have one more question to ask. Just kind of skipping back to what we talked about before, growing and healing through relationships. And I know many can resonate and have gone through, because we're really learning how to communicate with our higher self. So if we have a situation we're going through, someone close to us, it can be a family member, a friend, or a partner, a romantic relationship, something happens in our surroundings, we have a lot of dark coming at us from another person. How do we know if that situation is meant to be there for growth and for healing, that is really there by divine purpose, or if it's there being planted by the dark forces? How can we discern that situation? Because I think that's really important, because a lot of people are really going through many different situations right now. Yeah.
That's a huge question. It's so big, and there are times when there's more of an attack energy, but in order to find us, it has to hook to something we have inside. And so, in many ways, the more light in terms of light, not in polarity. No, we're not talking about light versus dark, but light meaning the light of consciousness and the light of creation, the substance that we live in, the substance of the higher world and the lower world coming together. The more we start to really bring that in, we do call in more attention from energies that want to block that and slow that down. But it's part of our work to know how to deal with it. It's how we strengthen ourselves. So we need to have some experience that we're being those people who certain souls have come in to do really a lot of helper work on the planet, and so they are being shown, they're being given what they can handle and transmuting it, and then they get it more, and then they transmute it, and they get stronger and stronger. And so don't give up. If you're getting a lot of hits from it, don't give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever. The one thing that they want us to do, so those dark energies, they want us to curse life. They want us to turn away from life and curse the very source that we came from. So they want us to be so angry that instead of transmuting the dark, we curse life itself. and we say, that's it, I'm done, this is awful, I can't take it. And there's times we do that. There's times we have to do that. When we do that, though, when we do that and it's combined with rage, our spiritual body takes a hit. We take a hit. And so as we master ourselves more and more, we get to see in the inner plane what happens. Our spiritual body gets a little bit weakened. And it's because those energies around us want us to learn how to do it and clear, but to do it with our power and to not curse life. We had to curse life many times in our journey into the dark. We had to curse our very own power. And by doing that, we lost it. And so they want us to curse the whole thing, say this is the worst thing that it could ever happen, I give up. That's what they want. Don't do it. Don't do it. The other part of that is that, and then we'll talk about a little bit how to know what's what, but the other part of that is that our relationships are huge. And especially if it's a real archetypal relationship and we're here to understand an archetype and to clear that archetype within us. You know, when it's a parent energy, a father energy, a mother energy, and the shadow side of that energy, we're there to restore balance to that archetype by doing the work, and that's what our soul wanted to do. And so some souls that are really master souls came in and took on a lot of hard situations in order to clear, not only for ourselves, but for the planet, because we're all one. Eventually, remember, we're all going into the one body of love. But so when we allow ourselves the pain of human feelings, sometimes we have to cry, sometimes we have to have sorrow, and we have to have regret, and we have to really feel the ache in the human heart and to cradle it and hold it, the ache of the inner child. I know you work a lot with the inner child, and to really hold that child and say, I understand your tears, I understand your pain, I understand why the victim consciousness was brought on, and to really hold that child and give it the space to, because it will reboot and start to get strong again. And then come into the place where I say, why am I here? Speak to the higher self of the other soul and say, what are we working out together? What is meant to be cleared? I wish to call in the most efficient, loving, and powerful clearing energies to help us bring in the wisdom in this relationship. So whether it's a love relationship that got really hard, and you're trying to decide whether to break it off or whether to keep going, ask to do the work and call in the soul protect yourself, but call in the soul and the higher self of the other person as well. So we can in any moment, we are sovereign, and so we cannot be denied the truth. When we ask, when we say, discernment, show me the way right now, show me the clear path of wisdom, call upon the Divine Mother and her Holy Spirit and say, show me how to work with love, divine love, because the goddess is divine love, and compassion to clear this for both of us, so that we can give our gift to the planet, and we can go our separate ways if we need to. Just check in, just ask. And sometimes it means sometimes it's so intense and so heightened, we have to go backwards and go into a day or two of working it out, cycling through the old pattern, and then being like, okay, I'm ready to face it now. And then the I am presence comes in, and we can do it. But we do have to backstep sometimes. So the closer we get, the faster the clearing happens. But sometimes we do need to have a meltdown, a pain body meltdown. And the goal is to go less and less into the lower sensual desires and feelings, and to raise it up, join it with the higher. The higher can look at it and see the illusion. The higher part of ourself can say, okay, I see what's happening here. I bless it. I love you. I bless you. But I always, always honor myself, because the only person we can clear for is our own self. So we have to protect ourselves. And then just do it. Do what needs to be done as quickly as you can. Gain the lesson. And so the way to know the difference between interference and personal clearing with another soul, because we planned those out before this lifetime. We were born knowing what we would go through with our parents, what we would go through with our spiritual teachers, what we would go through with this is important with members of our own soul group. Our own soul group brings in some of our biggest lessons. And there are different soul groups on the planet, obviously, and so there's some really, really powerful soul groups that are working out some really, really big things right now. And once those groups get it all downloaded, right, it's going to change everything. There's a few that are really holding a lot of weight, and so they're power groups, and so they're working out things amongst themselves because there had to be lifetimes where they fought each other, or where they killed each other, or where they competed against each other. In this lifetime, this particular time, there are divine groups here that are here to restore harmony by getting it right amongst themselves and bring it in. So that's huge. So it's really exciting, you know. It's really fun. It's like as much pain, as much suffering as we go through. It's part of like a puzzle, and it's so beautiful. And so to also take the moments to be grateful, gratitude, and love gives us those moments of realizing we can laugh at all of it, because it's really a big human drama that's happening. And I'll let you say what you want to say about that.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps. That was really powerful. Yeah, it's just taking things step by step. You know, it's like we can't shift overnight. It's just not going to happen. So it's step by step. And I think to remind ourselves too that we're not just doing this for ourselves, we're doing this for the planet and way beyond, like beyond even our comprehension at this time.
Yeah. There. I'm going to say something. Yeah, this is. I just also want to mention so the summer solstice is coming this weekend. Today, Sara and I met on Friday. I'm glad we did to work out the kinks and the interference that we had here. So this is it's a powerful time, and we're going to share this video during this weekend. But really understand your relationship to this light that's coming in. Merge with it, mate with it, prepare your container, do your best. Just do the best you can to live with love and to make good choices. And when you see a pattern, honor it and say, I'm going to do better next time. Immediately honor it as fast as you can, because we're meant to be playful. But this year, 2015, is very, very potent time for that veil beginning to lift. Very powerful time. And the more of that light you can be a vessel for, a chalice for, the more that the perception will change. The gift of refracting the 7 rays through our body is awakened perception and intuition of the soul. And Sara works in a big way with intuition too, with intuitive writing and working with clients on that capacity. Intuition guides us, and intuition is always keeping its connection with what is in service of everybody. Intuition always goes above the ego and wants not only what's good for the self, but sees the compassion and love in everything. And there was one more part for that. Yeah, now's really the time. It's really the time for that. And if you find yourself in a situation where there's a lot of competition, or you're feeling your self-worth is being challenged, ask to walk the high path. Do it. Speak the truth, but ask to walk the high path. Take the high path as often as you can. You won't regret it, even if it's hard. Even if it's hard to hold back and not just like attack someone, or even if it's hard, it will pay off for everybody, and we're all linked. There was one other thing, and I'll see if it comes in before we leave. But yeah, we're preparing for a lot of shifts on Earth right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we really are. And do we have time for one last question?
Sure, why not?
I know. I'm sure we're gonna talk about this in another hangout, but it's. I know you work with tarot and 2015, 15 being the devil. What are some of the changes that you think that we're gonna see on a collective level this year, and what does 15 represent?
That is a really good question. That's yeah, that's a really good question. I forgot to make you big when you asked that. So 15. So what we're doing, and I'll be teaching this in the course on the secret wisdom of the 22 archetypes of divine consciousness. But so we are in the year 15 represents the very first year in the last row of 7, and we are getting ready to experience the unfoldment of our soul power. Ready or not, we're on it now. We're on the train and we're going. And so we have different levels of consciousness all over the planet. Billions, for everybody here, there's a different level. And we're all, I remember now it was being showed to say, so I'm excited that came back. Okay, so because we're in this ascension portal, everything's open. We're receiving the light now. It's coming in. And so everything that's meant to happen will. Some of the shadow aspect of the year 2015 represents the key 15, the devil archetype in the tarot. And it represents bondage to materialism and to fallen sexuality. So this year, what we are seeing is more and more of an empowerment of the shadow side of 15, which is when we think of Venus, the planet Venus. We didn't talk a lot about Venus today, but it's all implied because it is her light that's governing this shift that we're in, and the light of the summer solstice along with the moon and the sun. We're all working together. So this year, materialism and fallen sexuality are really heightened. Like the desire, the appetites of the masses are being so overwhelmed and inundated with sex, how we sell sex, sexuality, human bondage, sexual bondage, sex trade, the satanic sexual rituals, all of this, and so we'll address this in the end, even though it's very heavy. It's really intense right now. The grip of the darker agenda that's on the planet strengthened this year. It got really strong and is really fighting, even though we've made many breakthroughs that are bringing in the light. The breakthroughs are happening as well, but in the mass consciousness, we're seeing the beast arise. We really are. It's no longer hidden. In the year 2015, the devil is in plain sight. The number 666 has been known as the number of the beast, and 6 is the number of Venus. So when we look at 666, we're seeing the shadow of 666, the sensual appetites, materialism, sexuality, only being identified with what we can see in the world have been really, and this is really important too, technology. Technology falls into that category because, and all of the agendas of, I forget what it's called, I think transhumanism and turning human beings into computers, all of that falls under 666 and the number of the beast and the year of 2015, and we're seeing it. The abbreviation for the internet being www in numerology and in the sacred, in the Hebrew numerology, it's in the esoteric teachings, it's 666. So the very prefix of the internet is 666, and the internet opens the underbelly of human consciousness. Whatever is in the darkness of human consciousness is also on the internet and freely being accessed by children. By the internet is being run. It's being, the light powers and the dark powers are both present, but in the mass, we're talking about mass consciousness. Many, I forget the numbers of adult men and teenage men that are addicted to pornography, really addicted to pornography, really hardcore pornography, and who are taking it in and programming their consciousness with pornography. And I work a lot with that in the podcast, in the episodes on the new human sexual paradigm. So if you're interested, there's several podcasts that talk about the new human sexual paradigm, and they're all on YouTube under under my channel. But so there's a lot of, we won't go too deeply into it, but that is really heightened right now. We're seeing bondage in everywhere we turn. The light side of that, of 2015, is the eye of perception. Ayin is the Hebrew letter, and the Hebrew for the devil, and it represents the eye. It represents the real eye of perception and of being able to decode everything we see and to really understand what's out there. One of the greatest gifts that comes from doing all the things we talked about and from becoming the chalice through the 7 portals is we awaken divine hearing, divine seeing, divine feeling, divine taste. Everything becomes our divine senses. So the 5 senses are only representative of the envelope of the physical being. We have higher senses. When those anchor in through intuition, we can see truth, and we can see it. Truth meaning we can see what holds consciousness and what doesn't hold consciousness. We're not talking about dogma or beliefs. We're talking about what's holding light and spirit and what is dense and far, 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 far away from spirit. So we are seeing more and more bondage, and the human race will be experiencing some attacks that try to create more bondage and more addiction to the lower forms of sexuality, and it's very seductive. And let me tell you, even if you're on the spiritual path, it's so seductive. It can come in, the dark forces. This is something actually I was shown to say before this call. The dark forces work through your weakness. Wherever you have a weak link, they'll find it. And so if you think that you are self-righteous and know something so strongly, they'll use that and they'll come in and try to work with that. And so for a lot of spiritual people, it happens in sexuality. It's amazing how many people who are truly on the path get infiltrated in the area of their sexuality, and they become unconscious about how they're using that energy. So we're meant to become conscious of it. So leading into 2016, it's a huge archetype, and I know you're tuned into that too, Sara, that it is. We're experiencing the devil right now and bondage, and there's going to be more, there's more to come. We're going to experience the break from that. Liberation is the light side of that archetype. And Venus in her divine archetype is the way to beat Saturn. When Saturn in its most contractive form is trying to hold us to, in the lower energies, is trying to hold us to the earth, the materialism. Venus can, the shadow of Venus can bring us into the heart and awaken our divine senses. She is truly the mediator between the physical senses and the higher senses in the heart. So that brings us back to that divine portal. The year 2016 is a big one. It without a doubt, it's the tower. I mean, it's the fall. And so it's also the Holy Spirit and Shekinah and the spirit of the holy breath of the Divine Mother coming through this light and just doing what she knows how to do. I mean, spreading a kind of love and a kind of consciousness that is so fierce that if we can't align with it, it will take us out. Because that's been the split, has been that this love is so powerful that if we have our back turned to it, it will knock us down. It will tower us. And the archetype on the card is the tower, the citadel with the lightning strike going through it, and subconsciousness and consciousness, the man and the woman falling. They've been struck with the light. If we've done the work that we're talking about, and it's so huge, it's here to bring awakening and transformation in its highest platform. It's the light of 2016 that's coming will raise many people into a brand new consciousness, and we'll see a lot of the old consciousness being restructured, being reprogrammed, and being some of it disappearing for good. And so knowing what to fight and not what to fight is one of the big discernments here, because you want to fight things and you want to bring truth to it, but be careful about getting sucked into fighting something that takes your energy, that in a very sneaky way ties your energy up so that you can't be holding the light. You want to be a vessel for that, because that is the truth. That's the truth of what's happening. Many of these structures on Earth are changing. There are light warriors who are meant to take it on a bit and who are meant to bring truth through the power of the word. 16, and this is great. I could go on and on. Take the course. It's going to be great. 16 also represents the word. It's Pe. The Hebrew letter is Pe. It's Mars. And it means the power of the real word of the Divine Mother and the Logos power. And so the gift of 16 is the spoken word that can change everything. And we have a lot to look forward to. It's a big time. We have to join together with those who love us, find our communities, and do the best to serve the whole while keeping protection for ourselves. Remember, we have to protect ourselves. So we're not meant to be martyrs. We're meant to be fully protected sovereign beings. It doesn't mean it won't be painful. We're processing our own stuff, and that gets very, very hard. Very, very hard. But it doesn't mean that we are going to be taken out. It means that we're getting stronger and stronger. So I've talked enough. I'll let you finish up, Sara.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk about that in another hangout, because it's so much wisdom. There's so much wisdom in that. And I want to thank you, Shannon, and everyone that's been watching this hangout today, and celebrating summer solstice and just swimming in the goddess activation codes that are on the earth. And I wish you all so much love and blessings and abundance on your path. And I'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Sara. And it was so nice to be here with you as well. And Sara is, I just want to say where they can find you as well. Sara is the creator and founder of Worlds of Comfort on Facebook, and her and I interact, so you can find her on Worlds of Comfort and on a lot of the work I do as well. And so yeah. Sound the note that you're here to sound. Make your music. Everybody, there's no competition, because everybody has a part to play, a divine part. And so do what you know you're meant to do, and you'll serve in the very, very, very highest way. So I wish everyone a really, really happy summer solstice. Also, we had some interference, and it's been happening, but I think we got a good video out of it. I'm hoping we did. It looks like we were both on this time, and so please forgive us. We had to start a completely different hangout, but at least it worked, and we were able to complete it. And so happy, happy summer solstice. And Sara and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. And so bye, Sara, and bye everyone else. All right.